Welcome back. You're listening to Get Real with Bob and Stacey. I'm your host, Bob Gallagher, joined in studio today by our special guest host, Josh Frias, filling in for Stacey. And we also have a special real estate agent as a guest today, Joe Porter of Lair Realty Partners in Chelmsford. How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing great.
So we invited you on the show to talk a little bit about real estate, what's going on in the market, and why don't we start with what's going on in the market you cover? First of all, what markets do you cover in the area here?
I am a Massachusetts licensed realtor, and I do cover the entire Merrimack Valley area.
Okay, that's a pretty big area. What's happening out there right now? You having inventory issues or?
Huge.
Really?
Yeah, there's really not enough inventory, and there's so many buyers out there that when a property comes on the market, there are multiple offers.
Right. So they're selling pretty fast?
Very fast.
Did you ever think you'd see this? If you rewind the clock back 3 years, did you ever think you'd be at the point where it was actually not just a seller's market, but an insane seller's market?
No.
Remember when you used to put a property on the market and you'd wait 30 days before somebody come look at it?
Yeah. That's true.
Wow. How things have changed. So in your area, in Merrimack Valley, what are people looking for? You deal with a lot of first-time buyers or kind of a whole mix?
I do. I mainly specialize, my niche is first-time home buyers.
Really?
Yes.
Really? Why do you like working with first-time buyers?
I love holding their hands. I love, the expression on their faces when they get that key in their hand. And, I give them a wealth of information. I walk them through the process. I tell them I'm with them from start to finish. They can call me anytime, text me anytime, day or night. If I'm available, I'll answer them. Literally, I just get them out there. As soon as I see a property come on the market, I make every effort to get them in it. And I kid you not, I have sold houses as little as 1 hour on the market this year.
Really? That's crazy.
Absolutely.
Did you ever think you'd see the day, Josh?
Well, we've gone through a few different cycles now at this point, being in the business now, I think 13, 14 years. And it's surprising what you see, over a long span of time. What I like about working with Jo is that she really does a good job in setting the right expectation for those first-time home buyers, letting them know what they should expect throughout the process, and letting them know how important it is to address financing on our end to make sure that they're armed and dangerous with a solid pre-approval so that if they see a home that they want to act on, they're in a position to be able to put in a solid offer.
Right. And going back to what you were saying about working with first-time buyers, because I think Josh would share this too. I think they're the most rewarding of buyers to work with because they appreciate so much the fact that you were there for that special moment to actually get them into their first home.
Absolutely.
Do you find that leads to a lot more referral business? Do people tend to sell with you and then buy again?
Absolutely. I'm actually expecting 5 listings in the next couple of months, and they're all relists from
Really?
5 years ago.
Really?
Yes.
People that are getting ready to move up or move
up.
Okay, good. Good. So that was one of the questions I was going to ask you too. We were talking earlier about the inventory issue, which seems prevalent, all over New England at least, if not the country. What do you think it is that's preventing people from being able to list their house or stopping them from listing their house?
Well, it could be repairs. They might have personal issues. They might have their job situation where their job could be in danger, and they just don't want to take a chance, of purchasing something and then having to lose it because they can't afford it.
Right.
I personally work with lenders like Josh, and we look at if there's 2 people, husband and wife, can both of them, if one of them was to lose their job, can they comfortably afford the home and not be house poor and not lose that property?
Right.
Those are some of the things that, I look at. But
Right. Now, one of the things we talked about too, with inventory being a problem, is it the quality of the inventory? Is that also an issue? The stuff that's coming on the market, is it in good shape, or there foreclosures and?
Well, there are some, but this is my pet peeve: is you see a property come on the market on a Monday, and it states in the MLS no showings until Sunday, open house, and then all offers being presented, if any, on Monday at 6 p.m. And this just happened to the buyers that we're working with, that Josh and I are working with. And I said to the agent, I said, listen, I have a full price offer here, no contingency. I want this offer presented this evening, not Monday, because I didn't want them to be in competition with somebody else.
Right.
Well, it turned out that we did get our offer presented Sunday evening, not Monday. And there was another offer, but we took that initial step and said, no, I'm not waiting until Monday. But a lot of what's happening now is there's a buzz when the property gets listed, and then there's multiple offers.
Right.
Once they accept, say, the highest offer, the very last step before the closing process is your appraisal. Is it going to appraise? I educate my buyers. This is what the value is. If it's not going to appraise, I put right in my contracts, right in their offer, that it has to appraise at or above the purchase price.
Right.
If I don't do that and it doesn't, appraise, then we're back to square one. Either the seller has to drop their price, the buyers come up with extra money, and there's absolutely no way is a buyer going to pay more than what the house is worth.
Right. Right.
I've had one incident where they actually paid over what the value was.
Right. I think that's probably more typical going into Boston, where you just don't have a choice, right?
But it's here, too.
Right. It's happening here, too?
Oh, it's happening here, too.
Wow.
Am I right, Josh?
I agree. I've seen a lot of situations where people have to do some out-of-the-box things in order to win those bids. Sometimes it's more of a, do they have the ability, the means to be able to pay above what the actual appraised value is? And moreover, do they really want to? Are they willing to put themselves into theoretically a negative equity position for the short term in order to win the home that they really, really like and they really want?
Right.
And just to touch on what Joe mentioned about not letting the listing agent, even though we're in a seller's market, not letting them dictate when offers are going to be presented, and really pushing and fighting for her buyer to say, you really need to show this to your seller now, because this buyer might also have a contingent property or a second property that they might be interested in too, but they'd prefer yours. We need you to give us an answer sooner rather than later, because that buyer has their own motivations as to why they need to get into a home quickly, whether it be for kids, family, school zones, etc. And I just want to say Joe did a really great job for that buyer, being a little bit more aggressive with that listing agent to say, I really need you to present this to your seller. And they ultimately won the bid because of Joe going above and beyond for that customer.
Excellent. So why don't you tell us what makes you different from other realtors in the marketplace?
I listen to my buyers. I listen to their wants and their needs. I will work with them as long as I have to. I've never pushed a buyer aside and said, I can't work with you anymore. I actually get to the point where if I'm working with them for a while and they're not being realistic, I'll sit down. I'll be very funny with them. I mean, I'll joke with them. I'll slap them on the wrist, whatever. And I'll say, you need to listen to me. And if you can't listen to me and be realistic, then I have to release you. Because there could be someone else out there looking, I've never gotten to the point where I've sat down, had a powwow with them. I'll say to them, listen, I'll work with you for about 30 days is my max. And I'll sit down and have a powwow with you. And if you can't be realistic, then I'm sorry, I have to release you.
And do you find that first-time buyers, especially the first-time buyers, can be unrealistic in their expectations?
I have a many, many, many number of buyers that have champagne taste on a beer budget.
Yeah.
Many.
Even on our side of things, on the mortgage side of things, we see the same thing. We'll pre-qualify them at whatever, say $300,000 or $400,000, and they're telling me that they're going to call their agent because they found a $500,000 house, but they're just going to offer under. I mean, how many houses do you have to offer? I mean, you probably can't get $10,000 off the price. Never mind 20% off the price these days.
I'm working with a buyer right now who actually had worked with a buyer agent who would not write up an offer unless it was full price. And they get out of their contract.
Yeah.
And so I'm working with them now, and I showed them a property that had just dropped $20,000. And I looked at them and I said, okay, this property just dropped $20,000. Everyone and their brother who's actually already seen this property is going to be all over it. Am I going to say, no, I won't write up the offer for you? Absolutely. I'll write up whatever you tell me to write up because that's my job. Where it goes from there is beyond my control.
Right.
It's totally beyond my control. But I will say this. I treat my buyers like myself. I put my buyers in the seller's shoes, okay? I will actually hand them a piece of paper and I'll say, okay, I just showed you this property that just came on the market and I'm offering you this $20,000 under the asking price. As a seller, what are you going to tell me? And they said, I'm going to tell you to pound sand. I said, okay. So what do you think the seller's going to say to you if they see your offer? You need to be realistic.
Have you also found that buyers who are also sellers tend to be particularly unreasonable, where they don't want to budge $1 on their sale price, but they want to undercut everybody else on the? I don't understand what that is.
Always.
Human nature?
I've had one seller that I can actually think of that didn't undercut my commission or the price on their home, and it was my uncle. Okay, it was my own uncle who I thought for sure was going to say, "Okay, I want to cut in your commission because I'm related to you." Never. The house we put it on for a high price because it just appraised. It didn't get it. I literally had a two-way conversation with my aunt and my uncle on 2 different phones. One was in North Carolina, one was here, and I said, "Listen, this is what it is." Okay. I forgot what the question you asked. I forgot what the actual question you asked me. I'm
Just
sorry.
people being unreasonable with not wanting to cut prices.
So what really amazes me is the sellers that want top dollar for their houses will offer $10,000, $20,000, $40,000 less on the house they're buying.
Right, thinking they're going to get it.
Yeah, and I'm like, you want this? Why wouldn't they want that?
Right.
So.
But I do find that usually people come around. I mean, after you miss out on 3 or 4 houses, you tend to realize that, if you offer under asking right now, you're probably not getting the house.
Right.
Yeah.
Sadly, consumers really learn their lessons the hard way.
Yes.
Is what my experience has been. And it usually does take losing a home 3 or 4 times, and then they come back down to earth and realize, okay, this is how the game is played, and if we really want a house and we really think that this is our long-term home for our family, we're going to have to pay in order to get it.
Right. And that's pretty much the way it is no matter where you are in the state. There's not a lot of easy values anymore. In Merrimack Valley, where would you say the best bang for the buck is for first-time buyers?
I do a lot in Lowell.
Lowell's come a long way, hasn't it?
Yes.
And is there a lot on the market for a first-time buyer there?
There is and there isn't.
Yeah.
I tend to work with a lot of FHA buyers, and what I do is when I show a property, I'll actually go into the property and I'll actually point things out to them that might be an issue with their FHA financing or VA financing, because I don't want to see a buyer spend that kind of money for a home inspection and find out it's going to be an issue. I'd like to point it out to them.
Right.
You know what I mean? If I'm showing a home to an electrician, an electrical problem is going to be a problem for them.
No.
But an asbestos issue will be a problem for them.
Right.
Okay. So I don't like to see my buyers spend a fortune on their home inspection just to find out these are going to be issues.
Right.
Okay.
So you kind of point out that stuff
Absolutely.
in the beginning.
Absolutely.
That's a smart way to do it. You know what? Before we get too much further, I want to give out your contact information. So anybody that's listening that's looking to buy or sell anywhere in the Merrimack Valley area, you should give Joe Porter a call. You can reach her at 978-204-0503. Again, it's 978-204-0503. And that's your cell. They can reach you by text as well.
Right. Anytime.
Okay. So getting back to real estate, let's talk about, going back to how fast properties sell. Do you think that there's an issue with people not being able to list their house now because they're concerned about where they're going to live afterwards because it's such a tight market?
Absolutely. I think that is the problem right now. Sellers are looking at, okay, if I put my home in the market now, where am I going to go?
Right. And where do you think they're going to go? I mean, is renting an option for anybody, or?
I got to be honest, the one that Josh and I have right now that's doing a rehab loan, they actually, I listed their home in Methuen, and it sold right away, and they moved in with friends.
Right.
Now, that time is just about coming up, and they're going to need to move on someplace else, But yeah, they're looking. There's rentals. They're looking at rentals, moving in with family, moving in with friends. They really, unless they have somewhere to go, once their home sells right away, because it's going to sell right away if it's priced right, it's going to go.
Right. So it sounds like the only real solution is to this current problem is more building, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody has any place to go, so they can't sell their current houses, which means the new buyers that want to get into the market can't buy anything.
Right.
So the question is, where are we going to put all these houses?
Yeah, and something else that I think that people have to wake up to a little bit more is, although it's very competitive, is that if you make a strong enough offer to a seller with a home sale contingency that you need to sell your home first before you can close on that next residence, it's going to become more commonplace that's something that's going to happen. The problem with that is that if the seller has to choose between someone with that home sale contingency and someone who can move right in, assuming that the number is about the same, chances are they're always going to take the person without the home sale contingency.
Right.
So it puts the poor seller the buyer in a position where they're going to have to overpay for the home in order to win that bid.
Yeah. Or sell their house before they go looking, in which case they're stuck trying to find a place to live in the meantime.
Right. So, Joe, do you see people who try to sell their home and ultimately say to the buyer, look, we'll accept your offer, but we need X amount of time to be able to find suitable housing for ourselves?
Absolutely. Whenever I see something, whenever I take a listing and it's subject to the seller finding suitable housing, I always ask that the buyer give us at least 2 months, at least 60 days to get us, into a property, find the property, and at least get under and close on it. If they find something within the first 30 days, but it's not going to happen within 60 days, then we ask them for an extension. Because I advise my sellers, do not go out looking physically at properties until your home is under agreement, under P&S, and then I'll get you out there right away.
Great.
It's okay to look online. It's okay to drive by properties, but don't physically walk in, because if you're going to walk into a property and you're going to fall in love with it, and you're going to get that sick feeling in your stomach, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to either drop your price substantially where you don't want to get that property, or you're going to lose the one that you just fell in love with.
Right. That's great advice, Joe. We've got to take a quick commercial break right now, so I wanted to thank you for being on the show. Anybody that's listening that's looking to buy or sell anywhere in the Merrimack Valley, give Joe Porter a call. Lair Realty Partners in Chelmsford, 978-204-0503. The number again is 978-204-0503. Stay tuned. We got more coming up after this.